to pick up where we are.
Welcome,
All right.
everyone. Welcome to the third session of Making Your Money Work for You. My name is Nina Lopez. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Executive Associate at the Women's Foundation, California. I'm excited for today's session on asset building. It will be once again led by the wonderful Saundra Davis, who is a U.S. Navy veteran, financial coach, speaker, educator, and consultant. Sandra is nationally recognized as an expert in the financial coaching field for her work with community-based organizations that focus on asset building for the working poor. Sandra is also the founder and executive director of Sage Financial Solutions, a San Francisco Bay Area-based organization that develops comprehensive financial capability programs for low and moderate income communities throughout the United States. Sandra, I am excited to continue with you today and learn more about asset building. I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So here we are. Feel free to have your cameras off or on, whichever serves you best. We are recording. So just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. And we do send the recording out afterwards. So I know I get that question a lot. I want to go ahead and cover that. If you don't already have something to write with, please get that now. Let's take a moment. Everyone get the writing utensils of your choice so that we can have something to work with once we get started. All right, as Nina said, I am Saundra Davis, and my lens when you're hearing me talk is of an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed for more than 30 years. I've been a financial coach for the last 15. I was a midlife career changer at 44. I became a financial planner, and I primarily became a financial planner because I was tired of struggling with money, and everyone I knew was struggling with money. And I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be able to teach other people. So that's what brought me here. My organization, Sage Financial Solutions, was created so that we could bridge the gap between low wealth communities and top-notch financial advice. What I learned was that people who had a lot of money could afford to have a financial planner who managed their assets. We'll talk more about what that means in just a moment. Managed their assets, made sure that they protected them from financial downturns and other challenges and infrastructure, economic crashes, booms, busts. They had someone that they could talk to, and not only did they have someone to talk to when that thing happened, when the economic bust would happen, they had someone who was looking out for them in advance, right? So the financial planner not only was there when, the markets were going crazy and stuff was crashing, they actually had a plan in advance for people who had money to be able to weather the storm and not lose their money. And actually, as many of you may be hearing, right now in the midst of COVID-19, which is so devastating for so many of us, wealthy people are often getting wealthier in these very times. And I don't say that to you for you to feel uncomfortable or hopeless or any of those things that we can sometimes feel. I say that to you because I want you to know that we can prepare for the next thing. We know that life changes, and it can change on a dime. The stock market crashed in 2008. 9/11 happened in 2001. COVID happened 2020. It's not if the next thing, it's when the next thing. And so we have to be mindful of this all the time. And I don't say this for us to worry. I say it for us to do for ourselves and with each other as a community what wealthy people have been doing all along. And so I want to be clear about why I do what I do. That is my why. So that people who have less don't find themselves relegated to bad advice, no advice, half advice. I was going to say a potty word, but I'm trying to do better. Half blank advice, you fill in the gap, because, you know, it's just the right thing to do. We all deserve access to competent and ethical financial advice. And so I do that in multiple ways. I do that in my business. I also have a coach training program where I train financial coaches. I'm what's called a financial behavior specialist. So in addition to understanding how the economic systems work, I also focus on how do our brains behave on money. I'm also a meditation teacher and an executive coach. So all of that comes together in how I think about this. So I want you to know going into this conversation that a couple of things are going to happen. We're going to talk about financial content. You're going to hear the jargon, you're going to hear the detailed words, but what we're going to do is we're going to bust open the myths about those things. And then after we deal with the what, in this asset building world, what this means, we're going to look at the how. And then at the end, like in the last 15 to 20 minutes, I'm actually going to open my investment account and show you what it looks like. So we're going to get the theory down, we're going to get the practice down, and then I want you to see what I do and how I do it. I want to call out that anytime I say something that is unclear or doesn't make sense, please ask questions. This time is your time. So this does me no good. It does you no good for us to just sit here and listen. We're not going to do breakouts tonight because tonight number one, we don't have time. And number two, I really want everyone to focus on your individual situation. So as we begin, I'd like for you all to let's take a moment and breathe. And so sitting or standing or lying down, whatever it is that you're doing, however it is your body is positioned, I'll ask you to just take a breath and let that out. And whatever things you've done or haven't done or wish you had done, or all of the shoulda, woulda, couldas, the mistakes, the challenges, the hard experience, I'm going to ask you to take another deep breath and let that go. As is always the case when you're with me, I'm asking you to invite for yourself a no shame zone. So anytime you notice yourself feeling like, oh, I should have known that, I should have done that, all of the things that we can do to be unkind to ourselves. I'm going to ask you to be kind and give yourself the grace that starting today, you get to do something differently. Let's take one more breath together. Letting any tension in the shoulders come up towards the ears, rolling back and letting it out. All right, let's do that one more time. That felt good. Inhale up, bring those shoulders up to your ears, up, 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 and roll back. And let your shoulders melt toward the floor. All right, let's come on back together. So here we are. We are going to start with understanding what the heck is Sandra talking about when she says asset building. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is type for me. When you hear the word asset, what does that mean? If I say y'all need to cover your assets, what am I talking about? Type for me. Type for me. What is an asset? And then we're going to talk about the goal setting, right? Goal setting for retirement or other future goals. So this is what I want you to hear. Asset building isn't only retirement. Asset building's all kinds of things. So I want you to give yourself the room of expanding whatever you thought it was, right? Whatever you think asset building is, I want you to think about it more broadly by the time we end our conversation together. So some great, great responses here. Thank you. Absolutely, Linda. In financial investments, the things that you own, things that build wealth. So not only what we own, like I can own my clothes, but my clothes don't build wealth. So I own it, but it's not necessarily an asset. It's a personal asset because I like my clothes, right? I could get arrested for walking around without these clothes, but it's not something that appreciates in value, right? So when we're thinking about an asset, and Judah, absolutely, the things that we value, right? So there's some things like right now, right here in this very moment, one of our major assets is that we're in this group together, right? So what you have, what you know, who you connect with, all of these things are our assets. Now we have financial assets, we have physical assets, the things around our home, and we have appreciating assets, assets that grow with value. We also have depreciating assets, the assets that lose value. Type for me, what is an asset that loses value? What is it, a possession we can have that actually loses value? Car, right? Now, you may be noticing, I don't know if you see this, but I see it. There's these little car auctions where there's a car that's like older than my grandmama that's selling for like $300,000. Why is a car that only cost $7.25 40 years ago is $300,000 today? Type for me. Why is a car that was $7.48 when somebody bought it is now, it's an antique, Janelle? Absolutely. And who decides what is the value? Who decides the value? Vintage, collector's item. It's rare. So the owner can say it's the value, whatever people are willing to pay. Samara, you hit the nail on the head. So when we're thinking about assets, there are some things that have intrinsic value, that the thing itself is worth something. And then, as you all know, those of you right here in California, I don't know about you, but I got a condo that I paid $160,000 for, and Zillow is asking me if I want to sell it for $438,000. Nothing's happened to this condo. Nothing has happened to this condo. This condo has not changed. Matter of fact, I think the plumbing might even be worse than it was when I moved in. There has been nothing that happened to this condo that made it triple in value. Not one thing. So we have to understand that our assets are also based on a given point in time, right? You can have something that is valued at $400,000 today, and next year or next month, or if the market crashes next week, it's back down to where you bought it, and maybe even at a loss. So that's the first thing we want to wrap our heads around. Asset building, there's a reason it's an ing on the end. It's not asset built. You have to constantly be looking at how do you continue to grow your wealth and your assets. Now, as we talked about when we did the budgeting conversation in the first session, when we're looking at our net worth, our assets make up what we own, right? So that value of what we own, that's where this comes from. So I want to just call in some of the things we've already talked about. We've talked about having an inventory of the things that we own. Now, next time we're together, we're going to talk about how do we protect it. But right now, I don't want you to forget the homework we've already done. That first step, having an inventory of what we own and the current market value. So I'm not going to put nobody on the spot and ask you if you did your homework, but I'm kind of asking, not asking, right? Sorry, not sorry. You know how that is. All right. So what we want to do is, if you haven't done your list of your property and list of the things you own, make sure that you do that between now and the next time we're together. Because the next time we're together, we're going to talk about what else is important about that inventory, okay? So when we look at asset building, We're looking, that does include furniture, Karen. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I want you to do, sweetheart. List everything you own that you would have to replace if something happened. House burned down, flood, earthquake, whatever. If you would have to replace it, write it down and write the current market value. Okay. All right. So now, are we, I need something from y'all. I need to know, are we comfortable? Are we warm and fuzzy with the term asset and knowing what it means and why we care? You can talk or type. How are we doing here? All right. I need a couple more yeses. Okay. There we go. Now, let me say this. I think I told you all last time we talked that I have a car. It's an Acura 3.0, 1998. When I bought that car, it was about 25,000, 26,000 if I were able to drive it off the lot, if I had good credit. Now, the fact that I had horrid credit meant that I had to pay 25% interest on that car. When I drove the car off the lot, it crushed my asset, the value, right? Because what I owed was $40,000 all in. If you look at, the little place on the contract where they try to hide the total price you'll pay, that price that way down, the car payment is all big because your ego says, oh, I can pay that car payment. But the little part that says the total about the price of the car plus interest, that's the little itty bitty print. Right? So that little itty bitty print said that car that I owed $40,000. The car was worth $26,000. So was it an asset? Type for me. Was that car an asset? So it wasn't a financial asset, Virginia. It was an asset in that I needed a car to get to work. It was an asset in that it went on my balance sheet and it also went on the debt side. It was on the asset side and on the debt side. If you were to balance it out, absolutely right. Not an asset, it was a liability, but it's both. It is both an asset and a liability, okay? It's only an appreciating if it's worth more than I owe, right? Now, my condo, I paid $160. It's worth about $438. I owe, I think, $180. And if you're wondering why I owe more than I started with, I think I mentioned to you all before, I took out a home equity line and I put myself through college, which is why I'm qualified to talk to you here. I spent $40,000 to get a master's degree in financial planning. So what did I do with this condo as an asset? What did this asset do for me? Go ahead and type. What did it do for me? It increased my net value, right? So now it appreciated to the point where I could borrow against this asset and invest in Sandra, right? So I went back to college, I invested in Sandra, and I started a whole new career. So I want you to expand your thinking about assets. I want you to expand your thinking about how you use wealth, your time, your energy, your financial assets. So I don't want you to look at it as, oh, well, if my net worth is negative, or if I don't have anything of value, or if I don't have anything that's appreciating, that you don't have assets. I want to blow that up. Is everybody with me? All right. So now when we think about how asset building works, we want to think about the setting goals for retirement or future goals. Now, here's the thing. When we were together before, we talked about saving for emergencies. We talked about, last time we were together, you all worked on some of your goals. So here's the thing about this. When we're doing an emergency fund or when we're doing a savings account for like periodic expenses or some of the other things that we've talked about, what are we trying to do with the saving? What are we trying to accomplish there? Go ahead and type. What were we trying to accomplish? Y'all go to sleep. what we try. I know it's dinner time and all. Having funds to be available. Absolutely, Deirdre. Thank you. Susanna, what were we trying to accomplish with the saving? Preparing for a rainy day, having a safety net. You all are nailing it. Now, when we're investing, we are taking a risk in hopes of a higher return. So when we're saving, we're trying to keep that money secure because we think we're going to need it. When we're investing, we are actually putting the money at risk in the hopes of gaining more wealth, gaining a higher return, right? So that's what we're trying to do there. Susanna, absolutely, reducing the liabilities or future, having the savings helps us avoid, the expenses that can come and the cost of having to borrow if we have an emergency. So this is what I hope you all are hearing. Everything affects everything. Everything affects everything. So if you don't have an emergency fund and you've got credit that is going to charge more, like me with the car, right? If you've got a credit score that is going to charge people, people are going to charge you more to borrow, you're putting yourself in a position where one event can cause a chain of events. And so when, the reason we're doing this as a series of 4, number one, you can't get it all in one. But secondly, and probably most importantly, is that I want you to see how it all flows together. So when we think back to the budget and we think back to the goal setting, now we've got our foundation. We know how much money is coming in. We know how much money is going out, and we know what some of our goals are. So now we get to decide, are we going to save towards the goals, or are we going to invest toward the goals? Right? So that's where we are right now. That's the point of this conversation right now. So I want to make sure, are we all clear on the difference between saving and investing? Let me know. All right. Let me have a couple more yeses. Thank you, Rebecca, for getting the ball rolling. Wonderful. All right. So now what we're going to do is look at the basics of investing and understanding what are your options. What can you do? It's one thing to know. It's another thing to actually be able to put it into practice. So that's what we're going to do now. Note this little thing down here at the bottom. This, let me annotate. So I don't want anybody misunderstanding what we're doing here. This is for educational purposes only. Now, am I saying don't go and learn and do this stuff for yourself? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I cannot give you financial advice. I cannot say invest in this, don't invest in that. I cannot do that. I know that kind of isn't great. And the reason for that is, remember how I said that everything affects everything? I don't know anything about your lives. I don't know anything about the financial situation that you're in. But that's the reason that I want you to hear the context. And then we'll make sure that you know who to talk to and how you can get the help that you're seeking if you want to talk to someone before you make these choices, okay? But the main thing I want you all to leave me with today is that you don't have to be afraid of making any choices. And I also want you to know how to choose a professional if you decide to work with a professional. Cynthia, I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. I haven't seen that. And maybe I just don't know the name. So if you want to give me more context, feel free. So asset building, strategies to increase financial and real assets. So when we talk about a real asset, we're talking about property. We're talking about investment portfolios. We're talking about those kinds of things. We've already talked about, we've got other assets. We've got our skill. We got this little ticker up here, this brain. We've got good health. We've got community. We've got family. We've got things that are assets that are not necessarily assets on paper. So I don't want you to start with feeling like there's nothing there. I do want you to take a moment right now. I'm going to give you 1 minute, literally 1 minute, and just write down every asset that you know you have. Write down everything. And you're going to include your big brain. You're going to include anything else that helps you move forward in your life. Go ahead, write. You got 1 minute. 30 seconds. Think of the unexpected. All right. All right. Now, your assets are one part of determining your net worth, your assets and your liabilities. The assets are an indicator of your financial stability. So your savings accounts, all of those kinds of things. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what they are in just a moment. But I just kind of want you to have this bigger frame. Now, we talk about the future. One of my colleagues, Carl Richards, wrote a book called The Behavior Gap, and he talks about the reason that investment returns, what the market is doing, are so different from investor, us as individuals, what investor returns. So market returns are often better than investor returns because of the emotions that go with being in the stock market. We're going to look at that in just a moment. But when we're talking about our future needs, we think, and we even hear from professionals, when you're in retirement, so go ahead and type for me. Who has heard or read in a book or anything, how much money, how much of your current income will you need in retirement? How much of your current income will you need in retirement? And do it in a percentage, 100%, whatever. Go ahead and type. How much of your current income will you need in retirement? 70% is one number, Marisol C. You may have heard 60%, absolutely smart. You may have heard that, 65. Financial planning wisdom is about 80%. There you go, Karen. That's financial planning wisdom is about 80%. That's kind of, when you hear the term rules of thumb, financial planners often use rules of thumb, and 80% is one of those. So tell me why. Why would I need less in retirement than I do when I'm a working person? Go ahead and type. Why would I need less in retirement? What are we assuming? Lower tax rate, because I may get Social Security, cost of living. Not necessarily, Janelle, the cost of living may be going up. Reduced expenses, right? I may not have to buy those jazzy clothes to go to work, although I'm a hippie, so I never really bought jazzy clothes anyway. But, the cost of working, absolutely, all of those things. Marisol, you all are brilliant. No mortgage. What else? What else? Less closing, lunches, transportation. Hold on to that. Is Deepta? I can't see the name. Yeah, Deepti. Yes. So here's the thing. Children are older. Now here's the rub. Deidre says no bills. This is the assumption that when we retire, we are retiring without a mortgage. We are retiring with income from either pensions or Social Security. We have children that are not boomerang kids, grow up and then come back and live with us when they are grown. right? We're expecting that our children launch, go away and stay away, right? And so that's what makes people say 80% is your number. The reason that this is important, and you'll see this as we get, when I show you all my investment account, the reason this is a big deal and the reason we're talking about it in this conversation is because most of us, I don't know about you, but most of us, that's not true. I am not likely to have my mortgage completely paid off before I retire. I'm working on it. That's my target, but it may or may not be true. I told you all, I didn't start straightening out this money thing till I was 44. So I'm way behind. I'm way behind. Nobody is putting money in a 401k for me. I have to do it all myself. I'm way behind. And so all of the perception might be, oh, well, everything's going to work out. I've got no debt. But the reality may not be that at all. And so we want to be mindful of the reality before we begin to think about investing. So write down 3 fast facts that are going to be true for you. Number 1, pick a date, pick an age that you want to retire. Those of you who are very young, please still do this. I know it might not feel as relevant for you, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Please pick a date. It can be 65, 70, nice, Cynthia, Deidre, nice. So pick a time in a space and time. If you're already retired, how long will you live in retirement? This is another thing that we forget, right? This is another thing we forget. We are likely, if we have a 30-year work life, we are likely to live another 30 years in retirement. Most of us will live 20 to 30 years without employment income, right? So absolutely, Sev, that's the thing. We've got to be mindful that, and Janelle, to make sure I'm saying your name correctly, if you love what you do, the question then becomes, are you dependent upon that income? Or is it just that you love what you do? And there's a difference. All right, 30 seconds, write this stuff down. When you're going to retire, how much of your current income do you think you're going to need in retirement? Keeping in mind that, say you retire at 65, you're likely to live 20 years on whatever your retirement income is. So go ahead and jot that down. 30 seconds, go. When you're going to retire, what age? What you think you're going to need, and be specific. What are you going to need? Okay, Cynthia. We're not going to do that yet, Susanna. Give me a moment. We'll talk about inflation in a moment. Just for right now, what do you think you're going to need? All right, so now we pivot our attention to the crazy making that can be the stock market. And this was intended, I know it's kind of small. Can you all see it? Do I need to make it a little bigger? Let me see if I can make it bigger. Is that helpful? Okay. All right, so when you first start out, you're optimistic, excited, and then when the market is going up, now this isn't necessarily anything that you're doing, but the market is going up, you're excited. Yes, this is great. The investments are so cool. And then there's this euphoria, and we all saw that, right? We saw that very recently with GameStop. Was anybody paying attention to what was going on with GameStop? Everybody was just, oh, this is so great. And then the market starts to go down. We're seeing that right now with the cryptocurrencies, right? The anxiety, denial, this can't be happening. Fear, desperation, oh my God, what did I do? Panic. Then, oh, I should have never done this. We talked about the shame. Maybe markets aren't for me. And then that real like depression, right? Exactly, Cynthia, welcome to my world. But here's the thing. Notice where the risk is. Notice where the risk is. The risk is here. Now we think the market's going to go up forever, and we know better. We know that that's not true. The actual point of best opportunity is right there. If we buy high and sell low, we've lost money. If we buy low and sell high, we've made money. It's as simple as that. But it's not easy because we never know when this is coming. Right now, it makes absolutely no sense that the stock market is having the run that it's having. No sense at all. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. And yet, millionaires and billionaires are rolling in dough as a result of the stock market, right? But those of us who are not in it are sitting on the sidelines for whatever reason, but that's what's happening. So when we look at what it means to invest, there are things that are savings tools. We talked about this, right? These are our savings tools. And these are our investment tools. And the higher up the pyramid you go, the higher the risk. We're willing to take the risk because of that little box right there, increasing potential for higher return. Right? The only areas we're going to talk about tonight are the ones here: stocks. We'll talk a little bit about real estate. Mutual funds and index funds are called ETF, exchange traded funds. Right? These are all the things that we talked about when we were together before. We were talking about how do we save? Certificates of deposit. We put the money in. It's going to be a very low rate of return. Very low, because we know that it's going to be safe and we're going to get the amount of money we were promised at the end when it comes due, when it matures, right? Savings bonds, same. I don't know about y'all, but when I was a little girl, my mama had savings bonds in the Bible. She bought savings bonds, put them in the Bible, right? And the point is that once they mature, you turn them in and you get the principal plus any interest that you were promised, right? Those are things that we know are safe. We don't want to ignore that when it comes to accounts, that safety is still based on FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Company. Our government insures our money in these savings instruments. The government does not insure our investment returns. They do not. So we truly are putting our money at risk in hopes of higher return. And the reason is because of what Susanna said a few minutes ago. We have no idea what inflation is going to look like. You know, I mean, we estimate 3%. We estimate 3%. But, you know, we have some years that there's no inflation at all. You all may remember, some of you may remember the 1975. Inflation was high. Interest rates were high. We were able to earn interest, but we are also paying high interest. So those are the things that we have to think about as we're looking at all of this. And I don't say that to you because I want you to feel like you got to go out and get a master's degree in financial planning. You do not. You do not. Now, if you want to, let me know. I got some people I can hook you up with, but you do not have to go and get that. You can just make sure that for the goals that you have, those things you set when we did our breakout sessions last time, those ideas that you had, the things that you heard that maybe were interesting to you, the goals that you said you wanted for yourself, what will it take to get them? Do you only have to save to get there, or might you have to invest? For most of us, we will have to invest. Now, when we talk about this risk, why are we okay with the economy that's so deeply? Yeah, honey, Namita, that is a values question that I cannot even begin to answer. Yeah, I do my best to make sure that you all know how to play in the playground that we are all stuck in, but that doesn't mean I love the playground. I'm very dissatisfied with the infrastructure that we have, to be honest. But I want to make sure that the folks on this call and the people that I touch don't feel like they have to sit on the sidelines. I tell people all the time, I am not in the business of helping poor people be more comfortable being poor. That's not what I do. So what that means. So Maria, there's some things that you can do about that. There's some things you can do about that. So when we're thinking about the choices that we make, we're then deciding how do we want to manage, right? How do we want to manage? The asset allocation tells you where to put your money based on your age, your time horizon, and the level of risk. This will be in writing in a moment. I just like to kind of tee it up. So don't worry, don't worry. And you'll have the video. The time horizon, your investment risk, the risk you're willing to take, your tolerance. And, to Maria's point, your values. So your asset allocation has to take all of this into account. And then you decide where you're going to put your money. And the main thing I want you to know about diversification. So what if I got all my eggs in this basket and I'm skipping along going to grandma's house and my basket drops? Eggs are gone. Eggs gone. No eggs for me, right? And so we want to make sure that we're putting our money into the investment vehicles in a way that and this is how it happens. Usually when bonds are up, stocks are down, and vice versa. Usually. And I say usually because I mean usually. Okay, right? Because the interest rates on bonds run counter to the investments of the stock market. Now, does it get a lot more detailed than that? Absolutely. But I want you to understand the basics, and you can go deeper and learn more based on what you decide to do. So before we leave each other tonight, you all will have decided what steps you want to take. And then I'll be able to tell you, okay, this is what to learn more about, right? So don't walk away from me tonight, or I guess you're not really walking away. You're just kind of clicking the leave button. So don't click the leave button tonight without making sure that you're clear about at least what do you want out of this asset building conversation, right? So we're allocating our assets in a way that everything doesn't crash at once. That's the point. That's the point. We don't want everything crashing at once. So we've got to balance it out so that when one thing is down, another thing is up, and we end up somewhere in the middle. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We're never going to have it all up. Hopefully we don't have it all down. Tell me a circumstance when it's all down. What kind of position are you in if this happens? Recession, yep. But what choice have you made if you're here where everything is down? Underwater, yep. Whole period, yeah. Right? It's when you've done this. Put everything in one. Not diversified, all the eggs. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the reason we do it this way. That's the reason we encourage a more diverse strategy. And it is a strategy, right? I want you to understand that just saying, oh, I want to invest, that in and of itself is not the goal. The reason we did goal setting before this is because I want you to invest with your goal in mind. Otherwise, what's the point? Why are you doing it? Why are you putting your money at risk? Right? So I want you to know why you're investing. So let's do that now. Go ahead. 1 minute. I am investing because, finish the sentence. I am investing because. Nice, Janine. Secure future. Does real estate crash? Yes, it does, Susanna. More return? Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing. Shidavan? Shidavan? I'm not sure how I'm doing with your name, but I'm kind of determined to make a sh sound there. So tell me what's important to you about having more of a return on your money than savings. I want you to go deeper than that. I want to stop trading money for time. Nice. Okay, Cynthia, what will building your confidence in financial management do for you? Okay, Susanna, money that grows for what? So what? The money grows, then what? Then what? Create income to buy a home. I want you all to get more specific. What is the point? What is your why? What is your why? So now I mentioned, thank you, Emily, excellent. So now, understanding how risk works. We talked about it a lot. So now I want you to understand, how do you determine what it is, right? So let me tell you a little story. I come from a family of gamblers. My mama ran a card house, and everybody in my family was gamblers, right? I, on the other hand, am risk averse. The very few times in my life that I have gone to Vegas, not because I wanted to, but because I was forced to by other people, I put $20 in nickels in my right pocket. I go up to the slot machines and I put those nickels into the slot machine. Anything that comes out of the slot machine goes into the left pocket. When the right pocket is empty, I leave the slot machines and I go to the buffet, right? So I am willing to lose $20 and not a penny more. That's it. That's it. Not willing to do it. Not willing to do it. Now, that's all fine, except I'm 60 years old without sufficient money to retire. My tolerance is very low, very low. And if I don't take more risk than I can tolerate, I'll be eating cat food. Well, cat food's expensive now. I don't know what I'll be eating. I'll have to only eat what I can grow here in my patio garden, right? So that's called purchasing power risk. Write that down. Purchasing power risk. That means that my savings, no matter how well I save, will not outpace inflation. Right? My oat milk today, I can afford. When I don't have an income, and if I haven't invested so that my money can grow, I won't be able to afford my oat milk at 80. And so that's the reason some of us have to choose this. And we may have ethical concerns. We may have some people, their religious practice doesn't allow them to earn interest. So, everybody has to make their own choices. You just have to understand the implications of the choice. If I am not willing to invest, I've got to save enough. I'm too late to save enough, right? Had I started saving at 25, I hope you young folks are listening. Had I started at 25, had I started at 19, I'd be sitting fat and happy and I wouldn't even have to work. Y'all wouldn't even be able to talk to me right now. I'd be sitting off at a beach somewhere, right? So I want you to hear that part. The younger you are, the more risk you can afford to take. You can afford the risk. My granddaughter can afford to take the risk. She's got 30 more years ahead of her to work. So the market is going to do what it does and she's going to be okay. So she can be aggressive. She can be in portfolios that are like, bam, going for it all. I cannot. I cannot. And so it's really important for us to understand our risk has two components: what we're comfortable with, what we're emotionally impacted by, and what we must do to be able to make it. So the team is going to send you a risk tolerance assessment when we send this out. Okay, when we send out this recording, please do that. Please do the risk assessment for yourself. We'll talk about it when we get back together. Now, risk capacity, that's a different conversation. You may be, hey, look, I'm buying the lottery tickets, I'm going to Vegas, I'm doing all the things. I'm cool. Risk don't bother me. I made it once, I'll make it again. I'm cool. And you don't have enough safety net or other money that is available to you, that your capacity to take the risk is uncertain. Now, because my income is pretty high right now, I'm fortunate that I have good risk capacity. I can invest more than I'm even comfortable with, to be honest, because I have the capacity to do it. I have the earning power to do it. But that still means I'm in a position where I have to do this for the day when I don't have the earning capacity. Now, because I invested in myself at 44, I can do what I'm doing now as long as my brain holds up. And I only work with people I love. So y'all go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause. I only do what I love. I don't work with anybody I don't want to work with. Right? And so I'm going to work probably well into my 70s, maybe even 80s, depends on how much I'm enjoying what I do. Right? And I still have to be investing. What if my brain doesn't hold up? What if I'm disabled? What if I have dementia? What then? Who's going to take care of Sandra? And so I have to balance saving and investing right now. Can't save my way to retirement, not in the few years that I have left. I can't take so much investment risk that I put my current situation at risk. So I got to have a balance. I'm going to show you what this looks like in our last 30 minutes, the last 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, everybody has to do it differently. So I don't want you to take this, oh, well, Sandra said go to, no, that's not what Sandra's saying. I want you to know how to make your best decision. And so I'm going to give you the tools to make sure that you know how to do that. All right, everybody cool on risk tolerance and capacity and the difference. Okay, hold on. I see there's a couple of, I see the questions here. Give me a few moments to get through this and then I'll come back to all of the questions. All right, so Money Smart. What are some of the inherent risks of a particular investment? The number one thing to know is to understand just by being in the market, in the stock market, you are inherently taking risk. And that's called, ta-da, market risk, right? Just by being in the market, the moment you open an account and you put money in there, you are risking losing the money, right? So that's the first thing to know. Even in a bond, right? Stocks, you are an owner of the company. Bonds, you are loaning the company money. Now, stocks, company goes great, you do great. Company burns, fails, what do you think happens to your investment? Type for me. What happens to your investment? Company goes out of business. Got nothing. Got nothing. Bonds, yeah, the value drops, but Sev, if it goes out of business, poof, right? Now, if it's a bond, it's debt. They owe you the money, but if they go bankrupt, you're in the list of debtors. You may get paid, you may not get paid. So I want you to understand market risk means you're in the market. Not being in the market, type for me. What did I ask you to write down earlier? Not being in the market, what is that risk called? Type for me. Outpace inflation. There you go, Namita. Purchasing power risk or inflation risk. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to make sure that we're able and capable of dealing with both the tolerance and the capacity. And then we want to choose the investment that's really going to help you live fully in the present, which means you're not staying up all night freaking out about your investments and preparing for your future. Okay. So we don't want that emotional crazy. We know the market's going to be crazy. We just don't want to be crazy with it. Okay. So that means we have to be smart. So where do we begin? What do? We start with an asset allocation goals, a goal that divides your investments into equity. What is equity? What's another word for equity? Type. Fixed income. What's another word for fixed income? And cash investment categories. Give me the regular words for those things. Equity is what? I just gave you a hint. Stock. There we go. Fixed income is what? The loan. Bonds. Can y'all hear me? Bonds. Bonds. There we go. Bonds. Way to go, Namita. Good catch. And then cash investment categories, right? So keeping it cash, stocks, bonds, right? Your initial allocation is based on your time horizon and how you feel about taking risk. Now, this is another thing that can get a little sketchy. And you'll see this in my Acorns account when I open it up. For my age, I should be almost all in bonds. The reason for that is I'm approaching the age that I normally would be taking money out. Yes, Susanna, be safe, sweetheart. You'll have the recording. So what happens when you buy what's called a life cycle fund? Write that down, life cycle fund. When you buy a life cycle fund, the allocation changes. So it starts out, so say you buy it at 20 years old. You're heavily in equities or stock. You've got some fixed income, but you're in like global, you're in tech, you're in like all of the high risk asset classes. And then you get to be about 30, you're still in the high ones, because you're young, you can take risk. In the 40s, it starts to shift a little bit. You're kind of in the middle, maybe like a 60-40%, still 60% stocks, but 40%, and maybe high 30s coming into 40. By the time you hit 50s and 60s, you're moving into less than 50% stocks, because the idea is, the traditional thinking about this is that you've got a portfolio, you've got a pension, you've got savings, you've got no debt. So you're getting ready to start to withdraw this money. So the asset allocation begins to shift to safer investments. You're less likely to have huge swings. And you don't want to have huge swings, because what happens when we retire and we have a portfolio? What's the point? Why do we have a portfolio? What do we want now? We've been saving, we've been investing, we've been doing all that stuff. Now we're not working anymore. What do we want this portfolio to do? Give us our money back. Yes, Seb, give us the income. That's the money we live on. That's the point. So let me bounce back for a minute here. So if I need the money and the market's here, what position have I put myself in? right? Now I'm having to draw, exactly, Namita, I'm drawing down money at the bottom of the market. At the worst possible time to need the money, that's when I'm taking it out. I want to be taking it out up here. But if I don't have savings, doing it with the mouse, so hopefully you can read it. If I don't have sufficient savings to hold me securely, so I can say, hey, look, I'm not touching that money until the market comes back up. So that's why everything affects everything. So we got to start here before we start getting into this here. Okay. All right. Let me go back to where we were. Is this where we were? Yes. Okay. So we've looked at the age. We've looked at the risk tolerance. We're understanding that we can lose money. So we want to be wise about the choices that we make, right? So then how do we get started? How do we take all of this that we've learned and where do we begin? Basic info on investing. I'm going to show you all this stuff. Read, make sure that you're confident. Now, that doesn't mean you got to read a whole bunch of books. You just don't. I don't want y'all on TikTok getting your investment advice. Just say no to TikTok investment advice, okay? And not because there aren't some smart people on there. It's just that the reason that there are many financial influencers who do tips and all that stuff, I don't do that. And the reason I don't do that is because tips can walk you into disaster. You have to look at this as a comprehensive plan. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do it all at once, but everything that you think about, I want you to put it together, so that you're not doing something that's great on this side, but is causing you risk on the other, right? You're investing and you're in a taxable account and things are going great. And then you get your tax bill when it sells off and you haven't put aside any money for taxes, right? Those are the reasons that I take the approach that I take. Those are the reasons that Women Rising invested, and they did. I ain't cheap, y'all. I ain't cheap and I ain't easy. Right? So because it's important for you to feel confident in your ability to do this. You got to read and understand the basics, review your current financial situation. What's going on right now? Are you in a position to invest? Right? Revise your budget or your spending plan to make room. I don't care if that is $5 a month. Doesn't matter. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then you're going to choose the approach of how you're going to invest. Identify the approach that you want to take. Now, this gets a little sketchy because some of y'all might get into this. You might be excited about learning more about investments, and you might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to learn more about I'm going to learn about crypto. I'm going to learn about options. So the thing I don't want you to do is take somebody else's word for it. I can't remember if I told you all this, but if I did tell you already, just pretend you heard it and laugh anyway. So when I first became a financial planner, someone near and dear to my heart came to me with this investment. There was this dude, he said, hey, you know what? I'm a chicken hawk investor and I can guarantee you 20%. You give me this money, I can guarantee you 20%. I'm going to start paying out because I'm going to take your money, I'm going to trade it in the stock market, and I'm going to be cranking out 20% to you. He sends this contract. This person was in Vallejo. And this person who I love dearly shows me this contract. I say, look, this is a Ponzi scheme. Write that down, Ponzi. I'd like for you to Google. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to learn for yourself. I'll give you a hint, Bernie Madoff. Okay, but what I want you to hear is there are many, many people who do this with folks just like you and I. So this dude had people taking out home equity lines. He had people taking money out of their pension. He had people taking money out of their 401k to invest with him. $17 million is what they could account for. I'm sure he got more, but that's what they could account for. And I told him, I said, look, this dude is not on the up and up. This contract is not viable. This is not something you'll have any recourse if this goes south. I said, don't do it. Now, this is back when I was trying to be a planner. I hadn't realized that people don't do what you tell them to do. So type for me, what do you think this person did? I said, don't do it. This is a Ponzi scheme. And what did that person do? I'm going to do it anyway. Those are their exact words. I'm going to do it anyway. Lost $45,000. $45,000. Took money out of his pension and he gave it to this dude, $45,000. So that's the reason we can choose how to invest. And then we can do things like make sure that we have our approach, like I'm slow and steady. I have dollar cost averaging. And what that means is that I deposit the same amount every week. Sometimes the market is down, sometimes the market is up. So sometimes I might be buying at $12. Sometimes I might be buying at $25. My average price is in the middle, right? So I'm not trying to catch it all low, and I'm not worried about the ones that I catch high. I'm dollar cost averaging. And then I leave it alone. And for me, to be very frank, it's very difficult because I am emotional about the market. I don't do well. Before I became a financial planner, I became a stock trader, but I couldn't do it. I bought Hilton, HLT, bought Hilton, and it started to crash and I was attached and I rode that stock all the way to the bottom, lost every dime I had because I couldn't let it go. I was attached to it. You know, I knew it was going to go up, so I held on to it, but you can't do that from emotional place, right? And so there are some ways that we're going to talk about. So these are the resources that I want, and this is what I'm asking you to do. When I said learn and read, this is the stuff, bad mark. This is the stuff that I want you to read. This one, and this one. Now, Smart About Money, this one is only going to be there until the end of July. So if you want to look at it, you need to look at it quick because they're closing it up at the end of July. Personal Capital is an app that allows you to track all of your savings and all of your investment. I want to remind you all, I never recommend anything to you that I have not tried. I get no money, no payout, no residuals, no affiliate fee or anything for anything I say to you. If I say it to you, it's because I like it, I've tried it, and I think it's a good choice. I am not recommending that you open any account with anybody that I say. I just want you to. So Deputy, what do you like about it, sweetheart? Say what you like about it. Then transparentinvesting.com. This is the one that I'm going to show you next. All right, so this, we'll do the takeaway, but right now I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share some of the things that I want you to look at. Uh-oh, where did my thing go? Hold on, bear with me. Oh, here it is. Duh. All right, I'm going to share the screen there. All right, this is, so one of the ways that you can start, I told you about apps, but if you work for an employer who has a 401k or a 403b, that's usually the best place to start. The lovely thing about that is that they often will match your investment. So if you say 3%, you're going to save 3% of your salary. They'll do that automatically. Some of them will even match it. Now, Cal Savers is something that's going on here in California now that is absolutely a wonderful way to start saving for retirement. It's not matching, but what it does is it allows you to have your employer take out your contributions ahead of your salary. So it reduces your tax liability on your account, and it's helping you to put away money. And I think it's an opt-out, so that if your employer is part of this program, they automatically opt you in, but if it's not a good time for you, you can say, hey, you know what, I can't do it right now, and they'll stop taking money out. I do think that if you work for a small employer who does not have a retirement plan, talk to them about Cal Savers. If someone would type this for me, CALSAVERS, it's State of California program. Now, I'm not fond of their fees, but they're working at getting the fees down. So fees for asset management is also a big part of the problem. I don't have enough time to go too deep into that, but I just always want you to be paying attention to the fees. But what you'll notice here is that you can see the difference between the balance, like your contribution and then your employer's contribution, right? And so you really see how quickly that can grow in your year of investment and the age, right? So these kind of tools, this is Vertex 42. You all know about this already. It's free. I love these calculators. Check them out. This is Transparent Investing. This is the website that I told you about. This was written by someone who is an investment genius. Yes, Cynthia, that's correct, Cal Savers. He is an investment genius and he's not looking for clients. This is educational only. He's not looking for clients. He's not trying to sell you anything. My very favorite resource for learning. If you're going to be a buy and hold, a passive investor, the younger you are, the better your returns are going to be because you just got more time. But even if you're like I did, this started at my age at 44, and so if you just want to like jump into it and get started, you can. If you want to read the whole guide, you can. It's a 50-page PDF, but he does enough to get you started, right? He tells you what. I'm sorry, let me get to that section. Is it here? No. All right, I'm going to run out of time, so I don't want to spend too much time. But go ahead and take a look at be wary of those who manage money, right? So he's really making sure that you all know. He wants to make sure that you really get what kind of position. Yeah, this is the whole story. I'm not going to be able to download it, but you all can, and it's free. And he recommends using Vanguard. I'm a fan of Vanguard because Vanguard is okay, so bank to credit union, right? A bank is a for-profit, a credit union is a nonprofit. Vanguard is like a credit union, but they do have investment fees. Now, this is Acorns, and you all are actually looking at my real account. Okay, hopefully they didn't kick me out. Let me make sure. Okay, so this is actually my account. I started this in 2016. I invest, I don't think I can make it bigger. I invest every Tuesday, $110, every Tuesday. I didn't start out at 110. I started out at 5, and then I moved to 50. My portfolio is aggressive because I was able to choose aggressive. I need aggressive because I'm old and I started late. 23,000 might look like a good chunk of money, but that won't last me a year in retirement, not even a year, right? So that is no money. And I want to say that really clearly, because sometimes when I show this, people are like, oh God, that's so great. No, I didn't start saving for retirement until I was in my 40s. And so, this is the reality. I have to do it for myself. Now, I have other investments for sure, but I want you to understand the place where I'm doing this every week is right here. I do the roundup. So every time I spend money, like if I spend $1.75, they'll round it up to $2 and invest the extra 25 cents. My portfolio is aggressive. Oh God, I knew they were going to do that. I'm sorry, hold on. All right, hold up. It's going to give me a code. I want you to see this though. Text it. All right, bear with me just a moment. I thought it would time me out. All right. 8, 4, 9, 8. All right. Right. So what aggressive means is that, let me try to make it a little bigger. Remember when we were talking about asset allocation, that's what this is. So 30%, I'm sorry, this 55% large company stocks. This is international. Now, as I get older and I become less aggressive, that goes down. This, oh, that's small company stocks. And then this is medium company stocks. So what are you noticing here? What is the word you're seeing? Stock, 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 risk, 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 risk. Okay. So that's what this is doing. Now, let me show you what else I want you to see here. All right. So now this is my performance. This is all time. Let me make this a different color. All right. You see this? That is my return on investment, or ROI, return on investment. So what this means is that of this total amount here, 7,000 of it is my money making money. The rest of it is all money that I put in. All right, is that making sense? All right, so now check this out. You see what it is there, right? Now look at this. Oh shoot, sorry, hold on, gotta clear my drawings. All right, look. What do you notice? See that? See that movement over the year, 1 year? What happened to my return? It's lower. Here was 40, all of the return from beginning 2016 until now. But you see that right there? Now I could have lost my mind and dumped everything when that happened. What would have happened? Go ahead and type for me. What would have happened if I had done that? What would have happened if I had gotten out of the market at that point? I would have had a loss. Right now, I wouldn't have lost everything because I still had all of this gain, but I wouldn't have gotten this, right? I would have missed out on the gain. So that's what's important for everybody to understand. When you're putting your money in the market, you want to be able to weather the storm, right? And you're right, Cynthia, I wouldn't have been able to recover. So all of these gains are recent, right? So then in a year, see how it levels out some? It's not so drastic. 6 months, right? You see what's happening to the return? So you can tell when most of my return is, right? After the crash, right? Look at that. You see the return? What is my percentage there now? 8%, right? Go back out there, 42. But if you look at look at that, within the last month. So we have to remember that once we put money in the market, we have to be prepared to weather those kinds of storms, right? So what is the last thing I want to show you? Hold on. I know I'm running late. God dog it. I am so slow sometimes. All right. So that is my invest for the future. This is my spend account. This is my discretion. Remember when I talked to you all about money buckets and I told you I have a spend account that I put a monthly amount in? This is where I have it. You can see I spent almost all my money. I put in, X number of dollars. I'm not telling y'all that part of my business. You're learning more than you need to know about me right now. I'm not going to tell you how much this $12 started out as. All you need to know is I'm glad it's the end of the month because this doesn't get replenished until June 1, right? So now this is my later. I started this one. I did not start this one in 2016. They didn't have it back then. What I do here is I save $500 a month here, but note that it is age-based. What are you noticing here? First of all, look at that, those words. Right? What do you see here? Bond, bond. The biggest portion, right? So this is what we have. This is how we navigate understanding what our rate of return and our required rate of return. And that's one of the things that we have to find out by learning more about investing overall. Now, I know I'm down to my last 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to grasp these questions, take any other questions that we have. I do want you to answer those questions from the PowerPoint. What did you learn? And Nina, if you wouldn't mind, if you could put these in the survey. What did you learn? What is important about it to you? What will you do next? And what support do you need? So what are the things that I want to say? All right. Equity, 66% equities, 29 fixed income. Cynthia, I can't say whether it's reasonable for 67 only because I don't know your other financial position, right? But what I will say is that what I'd like for you all to do, and Nina will send this out again, www.afcpe.org, afcpe.org. They have free financial counseling and coaching. If you want someone who was trained by me, you're going to ask for a financial fitness coach or an FFC. All right, so let me make sure I get all the questions because I only have 5 minutes. Okay. Personal capital. All right, like it because the asset class, excellent. Cal Savers, yes, Cynthia, it is Cal Savers. And again, you know, I'm not over the moon about the management company that they chose, but it's the one that's used in Idaho, and they have a good, Idaho or Colorado, one of them, and they have a good track record. So, you know, we've only had this for a year now in the state of California, so I'm not sure totally how I feel about it yet. But check it, it's worth checking into. It's worth checking into. Now, again, it's only if your employer gets it. We as individuals can't get it. So 401k says you can pick aggressive or moderate with Vanguard. Do any of the tools explain if you split it up? So how you split it up, Karen, is going to be determined by your risk tolerance, your risk capacity, and your age. So your time horizon. So for instance, my time horizon for touching this Acorns money I'm 60 now, 12 years. So that's why I can be so aggressive, because I'm not touching this money for 12 years. Shoot, that's another thing I meant to show you. Did I close it? I didn't close it. Okay. All right. Let's look at one last thing. Maybe it's not this one. Hold on. Bear with me just a moment. Oh man, they have a thing where they can show you the projections, and I really want you to see that. Doggone it. Bear with me just a moment, gang. Oh, I can't find it. I can't find it. What they do on my phone is they show what it will look like in years to come. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is now. I'm sorry. I thought I could show it to you, but it doesn't look like I can. All right. Yeah, it's not going to let me do it. Okay. So, thing, are we going to learn? All right. Yeah, you have great questions, great comments here. Thank you, Samar. I'm glad it was helpful. All right, I answered the question. Refinancing a vehicle, smart idea. It depends. It depends. So the thing you want to look at is how much will it cost you if you refinance and then you make longer payments, right? Because if you refinance, now if you're refinancing at a lower rate, you actually can come out ahead. So you want to look at, what impact it has. Will it hit your credit? Sure. But if you're not borrowing any other money, it may not matter. Like I've told you all before, I closed out a credit card that was the longest credit card that I'd had. My credit score took a 30-point dip for about 6 months, and then it came back. I didn't have to borrow any money in that time, right? So it didn't matter that it took the dip, it came back. So refinancing, when they check your credit, is it going to take a bounce? Sure. Just make sure that you're not applying for a mortgage. Make sure that you're not trying to rent an apartment or anything else where someone would be checking your credit. All right, the second bucket I invested is moderate. Yes, Deidre, what I'm saying is my regular investment account is aggressive. The later account, the way that Acorns is set up, the one that is later, I don't have a choice. It's age based. I told that I'm 60. It's like, look, old broad, you need to be conservative. Okay. They didn't ask me what I wanted. They put me where they wanted me to be. So, and that's okay, because they're looking out for me and they don't want me to come back and sue them for not understanding what I was doing. More about weighing ethics. Yes. So ESG, ethical and social, I might be messing that up. Socially responsible investing is a thing, right? So you can say, I don't want to be in oil, I don't want to be in weapons, I don't want to be in prisons. You can say what you want. Now, it does support capitalism. If you're gonna invest, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's not supporting capitalism. You can decide what kind of capitalism you want to support, right? You can decide to do good things in the world and choose how you invest. I think it's called ESG, but I'll send it to Nina and the team so that they can kind of tell you where to go. Now, some people will say that the returns aren't as high. That's not true anymore. It was true like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was true, but now they are socially responsible investments all over the place, and you can find them with almost every big broker. So Vanguard will have them as well if you choose to check out Vanguard. My two favorites, Vanguard's first, Fidelity is second. They are my favorites for the reasons that I told you earlier. How do you find advice on specific investments? Yeah, so I think I answered that. Vanguard, sorry, yep. Okay. All right, if you make a nice amount on the market and choose to donate a percentage to a group you choose, yeah, you can do that. Or here's the thing, you can even donate the stocks themselves before taking the windfall. So the windfall never hits your account and you don't pay the taxes on them, right? So there, that's a wise way, particularly if one of the things that you care about, what we're going to talk about next time we're together, if leaving a legacy is important to you, that is a way that you can leave a legacy through insurance policies, through the stocks, whatever it is that you have as an asset, you can do it that way. ESG, thank you, Sev. I have to eat dinner. All right, gang, I know I ran a little over. I'm so sorry, but thank you for sticking with me. I wanted to make sure that we got that. I'll try to figure out why I wasn't able to show you the projections on Acorns, and maybe they have a screen or something I can share with you. Thank you all so much for being here. Be well. Make sure that you answer those questions. If you're not following me on Instagram, please do that. I'm trying to build up my followers because apparently that's a thing. And then that's really it. I'm also Sage Money on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. I will send you a follow-up email as usual, and our last session will be in 2 weeks. So we look forward to seeing you. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please email me, Jay or Nina. Thank you and have a good evening, everyone. And let's show some love to our fabulous teacher, Sandra.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Good night, everyone.
I love you back.